Hey there, and welcome back to another episode of the Alter Your Health podcast. We are live on Facebook and Instagram, as we always are this time on Thursdays. And I'm out of breath because I was just running around the house. But it's 1 o'clock, and we're sitting down and we're diving into another Alter Your Health Live. I'm your host, Dr. Benjamin Alter.
I'm your co-host, Dr. Susanna Alter.
Oh yeah, and this is your source of information and inspiration to promote the holistic transformation of your health and the health of our planet. Thanks for being here. So we've got a dramatic title today. We've got a dramatic title and a dramatic healing power of water. So the title of this podcast is How Water Saved My Life, and it's my life that we're talking about. And, maybe it did save my life, maybe it didn't. In any case, there was a miraculous healing story that had to do with water and the healing power of water. We're going to tell that story. We're also going to share more mundane, day-to-day applications of using water to promote health and healing in the physical body. So where should we start, Suze?
Let's just dive into the story.
All right, we're diving into the story, How Water Saved My Life. So this was it, I guess I pulled up the Instagram post, so I'm going to look at Instagram.
I think it was 2 years
September
ago.
16th, 2016. So about almost 3 years ago, I was finishing up started my last year of medical school. And in the summer, right before starting my last year, I was bit by a spider right here, my upper, like by my collarbone, above my heart for listeners out there. And I didn't think that much about it. Kind of just had an itchy welt. And after a couple of days, I noticed that I had a streak from the spider bite to my left axillary lymph node, my left armpit. And there was a red streak, which signified an infection of my lymphatic system, or my the infection was therefore spreading. And I was a little bit worried, a little bit concerned. I at that point in time had been under my fair share of antibiotics in various situations, and I just didn't really want to go that route. And luckily, I was actually just leaving a naturopathic medicine retreat in outside. I was inspired by the healing stories and healers that I was spending the weekend with. And I went to one of these old wise naturopathic physicians with a lot of experience in hydrotherapy and homeopathy, things that I'm really inspired by. And I said, hey, I was bit by the spider. I've got this thing going on. Heal me. What should I do?
And this is Andre Sane.
Oh,
he
yeah.
was actually the guest on one of our episodes.
A few weeks back now. I'm sorry, I don't know the episode number right off the bat, but we were talking about homeopathy because Andre Sane is kind of a master homeopath. He wrote the book on hydrotherapy that naturopathic students study and learn from. So he's been around the block, and he was at this retreat. So I called up Andre Sane and I said, hey, I was bit by the spider. I've got this infection thing going. What do you think I should do? He gave me a few recommendations. The first thing was something I already knew and had already started, and that was to fast, to preserve the energy in the body. And when we're fasting, we're keep making sure that we're not investing too much energy into our digestive processes. So I was fasting, which allowed my body more energy to heal itself. And the second thing that he had me do was to do hydrotherapy, and specifically wet a quadrant of a t-shirt, the upper left quadrant of my t-shirt, so that there would be cold, wet water applied to the area of my body that was bit by the spider. And over that wet t-shirt, I would put a warm wool sweater that would insulate me and keep the rest of my body warm. And that cold, wet t-shirt allowed for fresh blood to be brought directly to that specific area in my body, because we know that where fresh blood goes, energy flows, and where energy flows, healing happens. So it didn't happen instantaneously, but over the course of the next 3 or 4 days, that really kind of scary infection was resolved. And I knew that if I were to go to any other doctor, probably any naturopathic doctor, they'd say, I don't know, I think you might want to go to the hospital and get some antibiotics. Specifically, I probably would have been on IV antibiotics for a few days, and it would have just been no fun. So anyways, I didn't have to do that. If I didn't treat it at all, maybe that infection would have progressed, gotten into my circulatory system, maybe gotten into my heart, and maybe killed me. So yes, water did save my life. It was an ingredient in that healing process. And the third thing that I'm kind of glossing over, because this episode isn't about the third thing, but the third thing was homeopathy. I took a homeopathic remedy that was prescribed for me based on my unique presentation of current symptoms. And the homeopathy, the fasting, the hydrotherapy allowed for my body to heal itself. And for those of you who are watching on live, I'm just going to show the presentation of what I was going through there was a 7-day journey that was captured. Hey, that shows up pretty well.
That does show up pretty well.
There you are, Facebook. That's my healing of lymphangitis.
So we were told to actually trace the streak so that we could track it, make sure it wasn't growing or spreading, and seeing if it was resolving. And here you go,
Instagram. Oh, that's not as good. That's not as good. But I'll link this also. Oh, it's quite.
That's fine. Try on Instagram again.
There it is. There it is.
So quick disclaimer, we are not suggesting that you treat yourself without contacting a healthcare practitioner. This is definitely a serious infection, and so it's not to take lightly. Ben was certainly under the care and supervision of the doctor. We were checking in with him daily, if not twice a day. So, it's something to not take lightly, but
absolutely.
But the point of the story is to really show you how
powerful
water is in healing. And so when we bring it into our everyday life, it's not doing nothing. It's having a big impact on our immune system.
Right. So water can absolutely help us heal from acute situations. Absolutely, without a doubt. In fact, there is lots of history where water has been used to heal all sorts of conditions that have happened acutely. And when we look at in nature, animals who have a wound, or a deer who twists its ankle or bangs a rock, that deer will probably hop in a cold stream, hang out, rest, and it'll be healed with the help of that water. We know that the body heals itself. That is a natural thing, that natural process that is always happening. But the application of water can expedite that healing by bringing fresh blood flow to the area that needs to be healed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so and with that fresh blood flow came all of the white blood cells that were really needed to kick that bacterial infection in the butt.
Yeah, and so that brings us to the rest of this conversation, which is the other applications of hydrotherapy that could be in a more day-to-day, applied day-to-day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because where hydrotherapy is extremely, extremely effective is in preventative medicine, but also for people who have chronic ongoing issues and feel like, all right, I just need to give my immune system a little bit of a boost here to help me heal.
Yeah.
So
obviously we're going to talk about contrast hydrotherapy. That's really where hydrotherapy works its magic. And when I say contrast hydrotherapy, I'm talking about alternating between hot and cold water, because that hot and cold alternation provides a pumping action, a pumping mechanism of our circulatory system because when we're in hot water, or when we have a hot towel or a hot cloth of some sort, or even when we're in a hot sauna, the blood in our body goes to the surface of the skin, and that's the mechanism that our body has for thermoregulating the body, for keeping the body temperature constant. So when we apply cold water to the skin, all of that blood that once was on the surface of the skin goes back into the core of the body, back to the center of the body, if we are just submerging the body in cold water, that is. And if we put a cold cloth on our upper left shoulder, then that blood would go directly, specifically, obviously, to other parts of the body, but we're focusing the blood flow to an area. But when we're talking about the broad application of hydrotherapy, we're talking about whole body hydrotherapy, and we're talking about infusing the core, the vital organs, with fresh blood.
Yeah. So just to name a few things that can really be helped by localized contrast hot and cold compresses. They're great for injuries. So if you injured your knee, your shoulder, like what Ben is saying, it can really help with the healing of that injury. It can be great for people who are healing with thyroid conditions to do a throat compress. The throat compress is also great if you're coming down with a sore throat. I used this compress when I was dealing with mold allergies in Portland, and I put them the compress right on my sinuses, and that really helped to relieve the pain, the pressure from allergies. So you can get creative. We've done it on my ankle. We've done it on, any part of the body can really benefit from this localized contrast hot and cold hydrotherapy.
Yeah. So yeah, these once again, kind of acute applications of hydrotherapy, really powerful, really good stuff. And some people who are experiencing chronic conditions like the thyroid, like mold sensitivities and things like that, for sure. And I think what we want to probably spend the rest of this conversation maybe talking about is the everyday application of a cold shower or a cold plunge of some sort. And that is certainly, becoming more and more popular in our world today. I think with the help of people like Wim Hof, who out there knows Wim Hof. He's a powerful guy, and he's spreading word of the healing power of water, specifically cold water, cold air, and breathing, which comes hand in hand with cold exposure, because I think initially we expose ourselves to, hey Winnie, okay. Initially we expose ourselves to cold water, and it takes our breath away. But once we start breathing into it, that's really where the power happens. And that's where the body, starts to relax, hormones start to balance and shift. It's really powerful stuff. So we want to dive into some of the mechanisms that cold water has in terms of helping the body to heal. And once again, our favorite way of practicing hydrotherapy daily is simply in the shower. Nothing exotic, nothing fancy. I mean, if it were a perfect world, I would have a sauna, and then I would have a cold river, and that would be my daily practice: a sauna and a cold plunge in a river. But I don't have a sauna. Well, we do have a sauna, and we do use the infrared sauna, the portable infrared sauna. And sometimes I do that and then get in the cold shower. But as in terms of daily application, most of us take a shower daily, and usually that shower is hot. And sometimes I feel like in our world today, we are abusing hot water. We are using hot water way too much. And I'm not talking about washing your dishes with hot water, washing your clothes with hot water. I'm talking about washing your body with hot water. The body the body likes hot water. We all feel good in a warm bath. But that is not really the way that humans were intended to use water. Just hot water all the time. That is not very natural. I mean, hot water doesn't really exist in nature except for the very rare natural hot springs, right?
Right. Yeah, so if we think about what happens when we end a shower or a bathtub on hot, one thing it does is when hot water is applied to our skin, it brings blood to the surface of the skin because that's how our body thermoregulates. So Ben is trying to train Winnie not to meow, but cats will be cats. Anyway, so our body thermoregulates by bringing blood to the surface of the skin so that the blood can cool off as it's closer to the air. So anyway, when we end on hot, that fresh blood is at the surface of our skin, and we're actually more prone to release more heat, to actually catch a chill or a cold after a shower. And when we're releasing that heat, we're releasing valuable core temperature, core heat,
Core energy.
Core energy as
Yeah,
well.
Heat is energy.
What also happens is that the skin can dry out. If taking hot baths, hot showers over and over again can really dry out the skin. So ending on cold is much more therapeutic because when the cold hits the skin, it pushes that blood back into our deep vital organs where we're really needing that core heat, that freshly oxygenated blood, and that in and of itself increases our immunity.
So we kind of hammered the circulatory aspect of hydrotherapy home at this point. You guys understand how alternating hot and cold water can change the dynamic of the circulatory system. That's really the primary mechanism of hydrotherapy, the primary mechanism of contrast hot and cold applications. But I want to talk about some of the other mechanisms that maybe come from that primary mechanism, and things like hormone balancing. Specifically, cold water applications increase human growth hormone, which is like the longevity hormone, the anti-aging hormone that promotes collagen synthesis in the body and promotes regeneration and repair and healing. So things like that take place. Also, all of the other hormones, because when we change one hormone, really we change all of the hormones. The endocrine system is totally intricately dynamically connected. So, we increase testosterone for men and balance testosterone and all the other sex hormones. We balance the adrenal glands and the cortisol and the adrenaline and everything like that. Our body simply regulates itself much better with the help of applying cold water to the body hormonally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the other thing that, a lot of people like to use cold water for is increasing the metabolic rate, specifically increasing the body's capability of burning fat, because cold water application promotes burning fat in our brown fat tissue that we have at various points in our body. We're born with this brown fat, this kind of baby fat, and it's much more metabolically active. But as we age, that brown fat in our body declines. But applying cold water to our body and jumping in a cold bath or a cold river actually promotes the regeneration of these brown fat cells in our body that promote enhanced metabolism and increased fat burn, which a lot of people want to do nowadays.
Great. I mean, we talked about blood circulation, but blood circulation goes hand in hand with lymph circulation. And we want to keep our lymph moving in order to support our immune system.
That's the other important mechanism, yeah.
Right. Because when our lymph gets stagnant, it's kind of like how you describe it, Ben. It's like a stagnant swamp where bacteria can thrive and grow, but if you've got a nice roaring river, that water is nice and clean, and it's bringing nutrients to all places where it needs to go in the body. And so
no one wants to jump in that stagnant swamp and get a nice fresh bath in the stagnant swamp. We all want to jump in the ocean or the roaring river, where there's freshness, there's life, there's energy. And that's exactly what happens in the lymphatic system when we exercise. For sure, physical movement supports the movement of the lymphatic system in the body, but if we're not exercising, or even if we are exercising, another way of enhancing lymphatic movement is, the application of cold water, which supports, constriction and then subsequent relaxation of blood vessels and lymphatic vessels.
That's why swimming is especially good for lymphatic circulation, but you need to make sure that you're swimming in water that is colder than, 84 degrees. So no,
I mean, it's okay to swim in warm water, but it's not as therapeutic.
Yes.
And so what else?
Well,
we did record a kind of how-to video, and we just released it earlier this week. I had a little shoulder injury, which is actually now, I'm wondering if it's related to my current back issue, but related to mountain biking, going too fast and that sort of thing. But in any case, we recorded a kind of how-to educational video on applying hydrotherapy with in terms of a compress, like we were talking about. We also showed you how to do a cold t-shirt or a wet t-shirt application, which is kind of takes the place of a constitutional hydrotherapy treatment. We also talked about wet socks and how that's really powerful for healing sinus congestion or the common cold. And finally, we talked about the cold shower and how powerful that is. So if you want to check out some more kind of how-to in terms of some of these other applications of hydrotherapy, check out that video, and we'll link it to this, of course, on the website.
Yeah, and then the last thing I think we could talk about is detoxification and how powerful, I think heat and alternating hot and cold is really where we can get optimal detoxification. And so we all know when we go in a sauna or a hot tub or a steam room, it opens up the pores, we start sweating, we start releasing through that beautiful big emunctory organ, our skin. But it also helps, moving that lymph around with the alternating hot and cold also really helps with detoxification. Because when we have our lymphatic system moving and grooving, that is also interconnected with the liver as well. And so sauna, steam room, even, hot springs, hot baths, alternating with cold can really help to detoxify the liver as well.
So your homework out there, you listeners,
and the kidneys,
your homework out there is to never, ever end your shower or your hot tub experience or hot spring experience on hot. Always give yourself a little cold. And sometimes, sometimes we don't have a cold plunge to submerge in. So sometimes, for example, in the winter time, it's obviously a very common time to do a hot tub. You might not have cold plunge around, but just when you get out of the hot tub, just hang out in the cold air, and that can be your cold plunge. Or maybe you've got some snow to roll around in. That's one of my favorite things to do. But in any case, your responsibility with this information is to not congest your lymphatic system and to use cold air and cold water to support the circulation, detoxification, hormone balancing. And I don't think we talked directly about skin. You talked about how hot baths and hot showers can dry out the skin, but the same is true for when we put cold water on the skin. It closes up the pores, it tightens the skin. And that's essentially what we want to do when we're not opening things up with the intention of detoxifying and letting things go. Then we want to close things up. So that's really how cold showers can be, or cold plunges of all sorts can be powerful for the skin.
Yeah, and I just remembered one of my favorite hydrotherapy practices that I do every day, and it's so ingrained in my muscles that I just do it on autopilot. I don't even think about it anymore. But I wake up.
And you told me about this, and I'm like, I don't do that.
Yeah, he didn't even know that I did this. So first of all, I scrape my tongue, which is not considered hydrotherapy, but it's a great detoxifying practice. After I scrape my tongue first thing in the morning, I then fill my mouth with cold water, and then I splash cold water on my eyes. And what this does, it's really good for preserving eye health, because when we fill our mouth with cold water and then we apply that cold water to our eyes, where kind of surrounding our ocular kind of cavity. What's the medical word for that?
Ocular.
We're surrounding
Yeah.
we're surrounding
Our
our
eyes?
with that
Medically
cold fresh
speaking.
water. And so I've heard people say, when they get older, you can experience some floaters in the eyes. I've heard people say that they've actually reversed their floaters with this hydrotherapy method. And so
Yeah.
I have pretty good eyes. I don't need glasses.
I don't. I have glasses / contacts, and things do seem to kind of be progressing. So I actually have just started doing this daily as of like a week ago.
Great.
So I'll keep you posted in terms of my eye health. But you guys now know how water saved my life. You know how water can theoretically save your life. And you know how to use water to preserve your life and keep you healthy, vital, and ageless in this life moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Any last thoughts, words, things?
I think that's good.
Yeah. So thanks for tuning in, and if you do have any, if this does provoke any curiosity questions, feel free to leave them in comments below.
Yeah,
and,
I also feel like we just kind of skimmed the surface.
Oh boy, I didn't. I thought that we were gonna be able to like do a full hydrotherapy lecture.
No way.
In 26 minutes or whatever, but it turns out we did just skim the surface.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to say, a lot to know when it comes to hydrotherapy, but hopefully you guys have the basic foundational understanding and feel empowered. And yeah, for those of you who are unaware of further opportunities to work with us, to dive into your healing together, we do have a healing community where we have meetings with you, actually with the whole community online. And you can join that community and get a trial for free. Go to www.altered.health for more. I believe it's /healing-community. Mm-hmm. And we also work with people one-on-one all over the world. And we love you, and we appreciate you for tuning in and being on this healing path with us.
Mm-hmm. All right, enjoy your homework.
Enjoy your homeworks. Keep it cold, guys. Keep it cold. Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.